Hello, I'm Richard Halkett. I'm the Director of Innovation Programs here at AWS. I'm joined by Dan Slater, who's our worldwide lead for Culture of Innovation. As we work with customers and partners, we found that a common question keeps coming up. How does Amazon innovate? So today, we want to dive more deeply into just that question. We know there are many different ways to innovate. We don't claim that ours is the best or the only approach to innovation, and it's certainly far from perfect. You may know a better way. But we're happy to share what we've developed and what works for us to give you insight and ideas about how you may approach solving your own customers' needs. When we think about how Amazon supports innovation, we think about it in four main ways: our culture, mechanisms, architecture, and organization. And today we'll share the overall principles behind all four of these and how each is practically put into effect in our day-to-day business. You'll see that as we progress, that these are overlapping and interdependent. They depend on each other. Together, they take innovation and move it to the edge of our organization, unlocking the potential of everyone in our company. So where does it begin? Well, at Amazon, innovation starts with our mission, which is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. The words that make up our mission matter and are very deliberate and carefully chosen. The mission scope is purposefully broad and not limited to specific domains or market segments or geographies. It isn't about selling books or cloud capability. It's not about e-commerce or related to any technology, geography, or even a customer type. As such, it gives us license to innovate across multiple domains, to look to improve the experiences of millions of customers, no matter where they sit. But while broad, the mission is also specific. It is laser-focused on the customer, which can help us in making decisions rapidly and at scale. For example, when there is a choice between opportunities to, say, launch new features or improvements, or allocate resources, a tie-breaking question is, which direction is the most customer-obsessed? What is the best thing for our customers? Now, when we think about innovation specifically, we also have customers right at the heart of our approach. At Amazon, we say that innovation starts with the customer and then we work backwards. So what does that mean? Well, it means that at the beginning and at every step, we make sure we're building the right things for our customers based on our understanding of their needs. And we take real trouble to understand those needs. We dive deeply into customer experiences and pain points, and we work backwards towards a solution that will create a surprising and delightful customer experience that solves those problems. This helps reduce our time to market, it reduces our cost of experimentation, and it reduces the risk of failure in rapidly meeting customer needs. Although, as always, innovation is a risky process, and we have our fair share of failure along the way. As I mentioned before, there are certainly other ways to innovate. You could focus on competitors, you could look at new technologies, you could focus on business models, among many other approaches. And at Amazon, we've chosen customer obsession and centricity. And we do this because, as Jeff Bezos said in his 2016 shareholder letter to customers, customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied, even when they report being happy and business is great. Even when they don't know it yet, customers want something better, and your desire to delight customers will drive you to invent on their behalf. The concept is not just about asking customers what they want, but deeply understanding the context to innovate on their behalf. And as such, it's limitless. If you understand customer needs and those durable customer needs, like the desire to have a greater selection of goods, have them delivered more quickly at a better price, then you're not limited by meeting the capabilities of your competitors or of a particular regulation, for instance. Customer-centric innovation keeps on driving you to innovate further and faster. So at Amazon, this has taken us in a lot of different directions. We now have a very broad and diverse range of business segments. We started with e-commerce retail, books, moving to DVDs and CDs, expanding into multiple product categories globally. We now have over 175 tools on AWS to leverage the cloud for compute, storage, AI/ML, analytics, and much more. We have a hardware and devices business. We deliver content through Amazon Video. We build and create original content with Amazon Studios, streaming channels with Twitch, and we have physical retail with Amazon Go, Amazon bookstores, and our 4-star stores. Now, the connection across all of these is that they started from a customer problem or need, and then working backwards to invent on behalf of that customer. Amazon Go is a great example. It wasn't born from the idea of getting into the physical grocery space, as it was simply from trying to address a shared and persistent and pervasive customer problem. Is there a way to remove the pesky need of having to wait in line at checkout, no matter what experience or what shopping that you're looking for? So let's dive more deeply. I'll hand it to Dan to talk about the first element of organizing for innovation, our culture.
Thanks so much, Richard. I'm Dan Slater, worldwide lead of our Culture of Innovation programs at AWS. The culture that you cultivate within your company is critical to fostering innovation. At Amazon, we hire builders, people who like to experiment and invent, and who are excited about building the future. People who love to get up every day and look at different customer experiences end to end from every angle, and constantly assess and iterate and improve those customer experiences or reinvent them entirely. We need to give our employees the right tools so that they can truly build. But we also need to support these builders with a belief system that helps them stay innovative and keeps the customer at the center of everything that they do every day. One mechanism that helps drive our belief system of customer-centric innovation is our leadership principles. At Amazon, we hold ourselves and each other accountable for demonstrating these 14 leadership principles through our actions every day. These leadership principles describe how Amazon does business, how we want leaders to lead, and how we want to keep customers at the center of every decision that we make every day. Our leadership principles start with customer obsession and end with deliver results, but there is no official hierarchy or order to them. We use them as guideposts to help make hard decisions quickly. We use these leadership principles to support good judgment and help make difficult decisions in ways that are appropriate based upon the context, situation, and information that we have at the time when we need to make that decision. These 14 leadership principles really make up the DNA of our approach. They form a common and consistent vernacular that we all share, and they help us make high-quality decisions at scale and speed. These aren't just hung up on a conference room wall and forgotten about. We truly do live and breathe these every day and use them with every decision that we make. Let's dive into a few of them. We'll start with invent and simplify, specifically because this leadership principle speaks to innovation. There are many ways that you can meaningfully innovate with bold, groundbreaking, revolutionary ideas. But you can also innovate by simplifying. One small, seemingly insignificant cost or time savings can, when scaled across millions of customers, drive enormous benefits for both your business and, more critically, for your customers. And a core concept of this leadership principle is that to be innovative, you may have to accept being misunderstood for long periods of time. A specific example of being willing to be misunderstood is Kindle. Many people question the first generation of Kindle devices. We weren't, after all, the first company to develop an e-reader. We didn't have a history of developing hardware at that point. And our first device was bigger and heavier than many paperback books. And many people question why we would build a product and a service that could impact sales of physical books on Amazon.com. Well, we may not have had the perfect design out of the gate, but our design philosophy wasn't really focused on creating the slickest device. Instead, it was focused on creating a great reading experience that, much like a real book, made the Kindle disappear in your hands to the point that you weren't aware of reading from a device, but simply engaging in the writer's world and with their words. Add to that the simplicity of accessing millions of books and carrying around an entire library in your pocket, along with so many other features, you now had a device that could do things an ordinary book couldn't. We believed in the long-term vision that customers would always value the simplicity of being able to easily find a book, download it, and start reading it right away. Any book ever published in any language, all in 60 seconds or less. That was, and remains to this day, Kindle's mission. It's simple, it's customer-centric, And it's focused on the durable needs that we knew readers would always have around accessibility, convenience, and a great reading experience. And of course, we constantly iterated and improved the device, with today's versions being much lighter and easier to read in any lighting environment, with better memory and performance and battery life, and some are even waterproof. Another example of willingness to be misunderstood and long-term thinking is AWS. When we launched AWS in 2006, many said it was a risky bet. The questions we were hearing were, what do you know about technology? You'll need to spend time and money building an enterprise sales force. Is what you're building secure? And, oh, by the way, can you just focus on your retail business and make that profitable? But by 2006, we had over a decade of experience building and running a highly scalable technical infrastructure that supported and enabled the growth of Amazon. And we thought that other companies would truly benefit from the core competencies and some of the services that we developed over that time. Flash forward to today, and AWS is a business that customers love. And we work hard every day to earn that trust with continuous reinvestment and innovation on their behalf. For example, we've reduced prices 85 times since we launched in 2006. We also have over 175 fully featured services for compute, storage, database, networking, analytics, machine learning and artificial intelligence, services for the Internet of Things, mobile, security, hybrid, virtual reality and augmented reality, media, application development, deployment, and management, and much, much more. And we drive continuous feature releases and improve these services constantly. And we also look to meet the needs of millions of global diverse customers wherever they are, with 77 availability zones within 24 geographic regions. Another leadership principle is bias for action, which states speed matters in business. Many decisions and actions are reversible and do not need extensive study. We value calculated risk-taking. So, how do we decide when it's appropriate to move quickly and have that bias for action? Well, a clue is in the leadership principles text itself, whether that decision is reversible. One mental model that we've developed that helps us be biased for action and make high-velocity decisions is the concept of one-way versus two-way doors. One-way doors have significant and irrevocable consequences. They need real deep thought and analysis. An example might be building a new data or a fulfillment center. These decisions take intense planning and a lot of capital investment, and they're hard to reverse once you're breaking ground. Two-way doors, which actually may be most decisions that you're making, have limited and reversible consequences, such as experimenting with a new feature on a mobile shopping app. When we see a two-way door at Amazon, and we have enough evidence and data and reason to believe that by going through it, we'll be creating a great customer benefit or an experience, we'll just walk through it. And whether it succeeds or fails, either way, we'll learn a really valuable lesson that we can then apply to the next future iteration or innovation. We teach Amazonians that you should make decisions when you have around 70% of the information you wish you had. If you wait for 90% of that information, you're likely moving too slow. Richard, I'll hand it over to you now.
Thanks, Dan. We'll now move to the second way that we organize for innovation. These are mechanisms. And mechanisms in this context are encoded behaviors that facilitate innovative thinking. Now at Amazon, a mechanism has a precise meaning. It means a complete process, a virtuous circle that turns good intentions into specific customer or business outcomes, and it reinforces and improves itself as it operates. So, to address a particular challenge we see, we build tools such as software or a process, we drive adoption of that tool, and we inspect the results to see whether we're having the impact that we intended. And then we iterate and improve the tool, drive adoption, inspect, and so on. There are many types of mechanisms at Amazon. These allow us to scale, and they help our leaders lead far beyond their direct line of sight. Some of these are externally inspired ideas. So the concept of an and-on cord that allows frontline customer service agents to immediately remove defective product information from the Amazon catalog as soon as they hear about it or see a pattern, so that customers aren't impacted while we dive deeply to rapidly fix the root cause. Another example could be our reporting processes like weekly, monthly, and quarterly business reviews that are adopted across all organizations at Amazon as regular, consistent cadences for sharing business performance, the outputs of our business, as well as the underlying drivers of the business or its inputs. In this case, the hallmark mechanism we have to consistently drive customer-centric innovative behavior and execution is working backwards. Every customer-facing product or service developed across Amazon uses this. It begins by deeply understanding the customer, and the output of a working backwards process is a document, commonly referred to as the PRFAQ. It includes 3 distinct components. The first part is a press release, a one-page narrative document that leaps into the future and describes a new product or service using customer-centric language. You've got to keep the press release to a single page. It forces us to be crisp about how we describe the launch of this new product and the benefit it will bring to that customer. The second part of a PRFAQ is frequently asked questions. While the PR is one page, the FAQ document could be 5 or more pages. We include 2 types of FAQs. Customer-focused questions that anticipate tough questions customers may ask, ensuring that we're thinking about their perspective from the beginning. Think about costs or how people can access the service. We also include FAQs internal stakeholders may ask, such as how this maps to internal goals, business outcomes, financials, why this is differentiated, how it fits in the competitive environment, and more. And visuals are the third and final part of a PRFAQ document, and they exist to communicate the end-to-end customer experience, helping to add detail where words cannot. And all 3 parts of the PRFAQ document help refine the idea and ensure that it's focused on the original customer problem and that it solves it. Now, the third way that we think about innovation at Amazon is through our architecture. So we hire builders, and we hire people who are excited to wake up every day and solve customer problems and help build the future. But you need to give these builders an architectural platform and a robust set of tools that frees them from constraints and allows them to build really unfettered and to innovate at the speed at which they can work. So we learned how to do this really from our own architectural journey. During the early 2000s, we pivoted from a monolithic architecture to a microservices one. We broke apart monolithic code into discrete, well-defined interfaces where business logic and data were only exposed through hardened and clear, established APIs. Microservices could now be written more flexibly and could be deployed independently as a single service or a group of services. What you see in the visual here is a network of just a portion of the hundreds of thousands of server instances in Amazon that are running EC2, that while working together and have some interdependency, are fully standalone. So this allows each service to innovate independently without potentially disrupting the others. Again, freeing and unfettering the builders to innovate as fast as they can. So by doing this, we fundamentally changed our architecture so there is no gatekeeper. There's no wait line for storage, compute, databases, or to start using machine learning. In the old world, when you asked engineering teams how long it might take them to get a server to try an experiment, you might get answers like 10 to 12 weeks. And that didn't depend on the code or the experiment they were trying to run. It was purely based on accessing the utility, computing, and storage services that they needed access to. In the cloud, you can provision thousands of servers within minutes. And then we have over 175 that you can put together and use in whatever combination you want. And you only pay for what you use. You get from an idea to implementation several orders of magnitude faster. This changes the capabilities of an organization. Employees can spend more time thinking about innovation and their customers because they know that if they have an idea, they can prototype rapidly and launch and see if it works. Or if it doesn't, they've not lost much and they can spin it down really rapidly. Back to you, Dan, for the last element of how we organize for innovation.
Many thanks, Richard. The fourth element of our approach to innovation is organization. How do we organize teams for speed and agility? We have a distinctly Amazonian way of organizing people to optimize for execution and innovation, forming them into what we call two-pizza teams, meaning that no team should be big enough that it would take more than two pizzas to feed them. Smaller teams minimize the need for matrix communication and unnecessary meetings. There's less bureaucracy with smaller teams, and that helps accelerate decision-making. This concept is fundamentally around creating a little startup of 10 or less people and providing them with the right conditions and resources such that each team has ownership, autonomy, and single-threaded focus in just one area. These decentralized autonomous teams are empowered to develop and launch based off of what they learn from interactions with their own customers each and every day. A two-pizza team also has the right resources embedded within them, all with a tight charter and a well-defined mission. Two-pizza teams own their own metrics and the KPIs used to measure their businesses, to help them be both reactive and proactive to their own customers' needs. So a two-pizza team isn't just about size. It's about pushing ownership and autonomy down into the team level. And as demands for a product or service grow, rather than expanding the team to many, many more members, we instead split up the team into separate two-pizza teams, working on single-threaded sub-areas of that original product or service, and critically keeping those teams close and attentive to their own customers. What two-pizza teams don't do, unfortunately, is guarantee success. But you can't have innovation without failure. Like Jeff Bezos says in his 2015 shareholder letter, failure and invention are inseparable twins. To invent, you have to experiment. And if you know in advance it's going to work, it's not an experiment. So we embrace failure as a necessary part of innovation and set up an organizational structure and a culture where failure isn't just tolerated, it's expected if you're going to innovate. And we've had our fair share of failures. We had the failure of the auction market, not just once, but twice. We launched Amazon Auctions in 1999, but that didn't catch on. Later on, we launched Z-Shops, where for a small fee, anybody could set up a virtual shop on Amazon and sell their goods. But that idea didn't pan out either. But we kept at it. We remained stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. Because we really believed that there was a great long-term value that a marketplace would drive to both customers and sellers. So we remained flexible on the implementation and iterated based off of what we learned each time. Now, Amazon Marketplace is a significant part of our retail business. Last year, over half of paid units were sold by third-party marketplace sellers. And of course, the Fire Phone was a significant failure. We later did about $170 million in write-down of unsold inventory just about a year after we launched. Building hardware is hard. And yet many of the lessons that we learned about building hardware, working with suppliers, all of that helps us today in our devices business. Some of the people who worked on Fire Phone also went on to work on Echo and Alexa and help launch those products. So you need a culture where if you work on something that fails, you aren't punished by that failure, but have the opportunity to apply those learnings on something bigger and better. To recap, these are the four aspects into how we organize for innovation: culture, mechanisms, architecture, and organization. We found that all four are really interconnected, and they work together to make something that's greater than the sum of their parts. If you remove one of these, you likely won't get the same results. For example, you can certainly get value out of AWS's technical architecture alone and its full range of services and offerings. But to fully take advantage of innovation in the cloud and push innovation to all of the edges of your organization, you want to also think about how it ties into all other aspects of your organization and your culture. For example, are your values reinforced every day through your company's principles or tenets? And are they used consistently from leaders down to all of your employees to help them make fast, high-quality decisions? What are the mechanisms you have for your teams to propose new ideas and to identify, fund, and launch those ideas rapidly to customers? How do you organize and empower your team so that they can experiment? What's the cultural feeling of building something new and having it not work out? Is it an experiment or is it a failure? We hope that you enjoyed this presentation about Amazon's culture of innovation and hope that you learn more about how we organize for innovation. We have many more presentations in our innovation track this year that you also might be interested in, from deeper dives into our mechanisms and organizational structures, how businesses across Amazon leverage the breadth and the depth of AWS's services and technology, how we're innovating for customers in the public sector, and much, much more. Feel free to dive deep and enjoy. Thank you.